In Conversation with Terry Shepard, award-winning broadcaster, narrator, and author. A deep dive into the writer's craft with the artists and support systems who create the stories we love.
In a world where loyalty can be the sharpest weapon and truth itself is treason, debut author Heather Ogden invites us into the haunting depths of her new dystopian fantasy, The Betrayal, the first in the Lies We Fear series. With a passion for fantasy and magical realism, Heather has crafted a story that blends mysterious magic, hidden truths, and the resilience of the human spirit. At its center is Angelette Arabella, daughter of a national hero whose carefully constructed image begins to unravel when a staged kidnapping exposes a web of lies, vanishing family, and dangerous secrets. Heather Ogden, welcome to the conversation. I'm fascinated by this book.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
How did you come up with the idea?
So the first full idea started in about 2018. I was in high school. We'd just gotten reading 1984. And I had a very peculiar dream that surrounded the plot of the book. Unfortunately, I don't actually remember the dream. I just remember the plot of the book, and I went, you know what? That sounds like a really good story. I should write that. And at first, it started out as a script. That was my original passion, was script writing, and then college, I realized it's really hard to break into the film industry. Let me try the book industry instead.
Angelette's relationship with Valerius, her dad, is at the heart of the novel. What inspired their dynamic?
I want to say, first off, my relationship with my father is perfect. It's not based on my relationship. I've gotten that a lot. Jokes on if it's based on me. It is not. It was based around the story, and over the years, it had evolved into what if it was a daughter and a father, and that had caused me to do some research into psychology of what would happen to a daughter's sense of self when it's the father and that kind of control and power.
Well, and betrayal is such a central theme. Why did you choose to explore that concept in your debut?
I chose to explore betrayal because it's such a heartfelt moment. Everyone has felt a sense of betrayal. And so reading that and seeing how characters deal with that can bring a sense of relief and connection.
And the city, the location for the story is a character in itself. It feels both fantastical and eerily familiar. How did you go about building this world?
So Libertas, I actually had really fun with. Originally, I drew from inspiration from places like New York and Chicago because I wanted the city to feel like extremely modern. Big city, big feel, really overwhelming for people who hadn't been used to that, but something that felt magical and almost like it could be real.
We're talking with Heather Ogden about her debut, The Betrayal, the first in the Lies We Fear series. And the website is real easy to remember. It's thelieswefear.com. The novel explores love as a weapon. How do you think readers will connect with that theme?
I think they'll really connect with it because the conditional love and manipulation aspect is something that we've all kind of read and seen, and how different people handle it, and coming up about how true love can really connect through the connections with her family and the friends that she eventually makes and chooses to side with.
Weaving dystopian fantasy often means putting together suspense, politics, and personal stakes. What was the biggest challenge in balancing those three elements?
The biggest challenge was honestly the balance and not leaning too much in any one direction. You need suspense, you need the political intrigue, but if you go too much into personal stakes or the political intrigue, it overwhelms the others and it can really throw off the whole narrative. So finding that balance was really hard and challenging for me.
What was most surprising for you about writing this book?
I think writing it was surprising for me. Because again, I come from a script writing origin, so I'm really good at dialogues. Character interactions is something that I claim to be amazing at. But like descriptions and transitions is something I wasn't really used to. And so originally when I had submitted to Morgan James, I had only done 4 chapters. And I was not expecting anything. And I fury wrote like 36 chapters in a week because I was so scared. And they said yes, and I was shocked.
Tell me about your process. How do you write?
So my process for this book is a lot different from what my usual process is. So for this one, I knew I had to write an outline because I am in that vein to where if I do not have an end in mind, I won't end it. It'll just keep going and going, and that's not good from a story perspective. There needs to be an end. So my first step was writing the outline. Once I got the outline, I divided it into sections and went, okay, this section's going to be in the first book, this will be in the second book, and then this will be in the third book.
So you already know how the series is going to end?
Yes. Yes, I had that plan in mind, although there have been some edits because I very much bounce ideas off of my fiancé to make sure that they're good. And he has given me some surprising ideas that I can use. So I really should attribute some of it to him.
Without giving away spoilers, what were some of the things he told you in those feedback sessions?
So, as you probably know from the first book, I like to leave off cliffhangers. The second book will absolutely leave off of a cliffhanger, and people I know will not like how I start the third book because it will be from a different perspective than what it usually will be from.
How has working on this book shaped your plans for future writing projects beyond the series?
So this book, it really shaped me into thinking I could bring the directors to me. Instead of trying to get to the screenplay world, why don't I just write the book, make it a huge success, and then have them come to me saying, I want to make this into a movie. And so coming about it like that, I can then write my books as if I'm expecting them to be movies, so that there's not this discrepancy that I always see when books get turned into movies of leaving out details or leaving out certain plot points because I'm writing it.
What do you think it was about the Betrayal that sold it to the publisher?
I'm genuinely confused on that myself because for the longest time I've had imposter syndrome, and in fact the Betrayal was a piece I was working on to get my mind off of another portion or another work that I had writer's block on, and I didn't know where to go from, and I was like, let me take a break, let me move on to something else, and I just started writing.
Where did imposter syndrome come from for you?
It feels unreal to me that this is something that I'm good at. I remember starting to write in 2014. I was middle school. I really wanted to be a YouTuber. And my mom had told me before I post anything online, I had to write a script and I had to send it in to her. She had to approve it. And that was the first step. And she looked at me after reading over one of my scripts and she was like, this is good, right? And I'm thinking, oh, she's just being a mom. She's being biased. She doesn't actually mean it. And even now, like, I haven't unfortunately given it out. I haven't seen many reviews on it. I've gotten one, a 5-star, but most of the people that I've handed the book out to are family. And so there's that part of me they have that familiar connection with me. And so they don't want to tell me if it's bad.
How did you learn the craft?
It comes naturally. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. It's just the words and the scenes, they all flow into my head and I see how I want it to enact in my head and I translate that into words.
The series is The Lies We Fear, and that's the name of the website, thelieswefear.com. It starts off with our special guest, Heather Ogden's premiere book, The Betrayal. You live in Tennessee. And you say you often find inspiration in local bookstores. How do those environments fuel your imagination?
So for me, it's always the little things. I, like most book readers, love the smell of books. I'll buy new books just to fill the home with the scent of that. I love flipping through the pages, reading the blurbs on the back covers, just anywhere that I can get inspiration. And it's just something about being surrounded by so many other stories that just makes my brain start firing off ideas.
And you said that you feel most comfortable in a dialogue situation in the
Yes.
world of script writing. How did
Yes.
you learn that?
So for me, I always have little voices in my head just talking. That's how I hear my thoughts, is little voices, little characters. And I just thought, let me just put those voices onto the page. And I know not everyone thinks like that, unfortunately, but
Do you sometimes find when you're putting these things together that the characters start taking over the story?
yes, absolutely. Sometimes I have to reel it in to go, nope, wait, we got to slow down a little bit here.
And when does that happen?
It happens for me when the adrenaline of the story starts getting really high. So when there are high intensity actions and I just want to go and I just fury write. And I'm like, I need to slow down. I need to pace myself. Not everything has to happen in one chapter.
Are you one of those people that when you go to a restaurant, all of a sudden you stop paying attention to your fiance because you're listening to someone else's conversation? And what kind of things catch your ear?
I don't like to say gossip, but when I hear gossip and drama about other people's lives, I'm like, story idea? What kind of drama do people go through?
Is there any dimension of the book that is at all autobiographical?
No.
I always wonder because at some point in time, we do end up writing that autobiographical story.
Yeah.
Is that something that we might see later in the series?
Possibly. I'm not too sure. I know, like with most people, I always put a section of myself into my characters. In every one of my characters, including the villains. I put my dark sides into those villains to make sure that they can come to life.
What is your biggest fear about being a writer, and what is your biggest joy?
I think my biggest fear is getting big, which is surprising. I am a major introvert with massive social anxiety, so the idea of having to go speak, to go talk, to go be in front of massive crowds of people just looms over me. If I honestly could have it my way, I would love to just sit in a cozy nook with a computer, just writing. Just not having to talk to people because people are tiring a lot of the times. The greatest joy is writing. I love sharing stories, sharing entertainment with people. That was my ultimate goal with being a writer, was I wanted to bring genuine entertainment to people who read my stories.
Have you had those situations in the course of this book and your writing where you have had to talk to people in groups, and how did you manage it?
Yes, I did. So thankfully last year, David Hancock invited me to the Writers' Fest. And so I went, and that was my first big conference that I went to. It was extremely overwhelming for me. And it took a while for me to get used to it. And I just took it slow and made sure I had earplugs to help with auditory overstimulation. Unfortunately, I can't find anything to help with visual stimulation, so I'm still in a work in process on that, but I'm learning to cope.
What do you hope people will take away from their experience with the Betrayal?
I really hope that even when people realize that their world is built on lies, that truth really still matters. There's this quote from Robert Evans that I absolutely love and took inspiration while writing, is there are 3 sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth. And that idea, it absolutely runs through the Betrayal. Questioning the tale that you've been told is, in my head, an act of bravery.
What have your friends and family told you they like best about your writing?
They only compliment it, so it's really hard to pick out one singular comment. I know they've told me my dialogue is amazing, but that's something I already knew. My fiance consistently tells me he likes my descriptions, actually. He likes how I describe things. I think the pacing that I do is really well.
Do you hope to see that on the screen at some point in time in the future?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm hoping that if I can negotiate correctly, I can write these scripts to my own movie.
Who are the people that inspire you as a writer?
Actually, my college professors. They really helped me through my years, because that was when I was really able to surround myself with other writers and other people who were like me. That was really when I set into foot that I can be a writer and I am actually good at this.
For aspiring novelists, especially those that are drawn to your genre of fantasy, what lessons from your own journey would you share?
The lessons I share is don't wait. I only had 6 chapters. I submitted 4 chapters to Morgan James, and chapter 4 back then I think was like 2 pages. So the fact that they had taken it was an absolute shock to me. Even if you submit something not to get an acceptance, it's all about framing what you want your goals to be. So if you want to understand how the publishing industry works, submit it and just ask for feedback. See what's working, see what doesn't, and then build off of there.
The book is The Betrayal. It is the debut and the first part of what will likely be a trilogy in the Lies We Fear series. And that's the name of the website, thelieswefear.com. And it's written by our special guest, Heather Ogden.